I believe these things should be done by the adults. The children certainly have fears, but they shouldn't be taking militant action. I believe that these things should be done by the teachers themselves.
When a new government gets into power, there's always some changes take place. Everybody expects that. Some are good and some are bad. In this case, I think they're just a little bit too hasty. I'm certainly not an educator and qualified to judge the full effects of this, but as a layman, it looks quite horrific to me, and we should take some more positive action on it.
Without double marking, H.S.C students will be seriously affected in some subjects and disadvantaged because there'll be smaller numbers of overburdened teachers marking the H.S.C, and people are fallible. Federal are making the education budget and how it's going to affect us, because sadly we're not infallible either. So they're going to be incredibly tough on people who enjoy humanities subjects like, say, physical education or whatever. We have better things.
When you're exercising, what are...
Yes, David.
30+6.
Very close.
Which channel is it?
Channel 3. I'm still counting that around. It sort of crosses your mind, I like that.
Okay. You need food. What else do you need to get energy? You need also more, what do you need? Things that are more
Strenuous.
Yeah.
Alderman Welsh, what's your view on the proposed cuts to teaching in New South Wales?
Well, I'm opposed to it, John. I'm opposed to anything that disadvantages the people of my electorate, and this certainly disadvantages both the teachers and the children.
What about the militant action being proposed by the school students? Do you condone that?
No, I'm opposed to that as well. I don't believe that the children be taking militant action. I believe these things should be done by the adults. The children certainly have fears, but they shouldn't be taking militant action. I believe that these things should be done by the teachers themselves.
A study of student numbers reveals a slow but steady swing away from government schools towards private schools. And Dr Metherell says this indicates the community has lost confidence in the government system. His formula for change is to reduce the number of teachers, increase class sizes, drop special interest subjects and place more emphasis on basic academic subjects. But his ministerial action has incited unprecedented opposition from students, industrial action from teachers and vocal concern from P&C associations. Overnight, education has seemingly become the hottest political issue in New South Wales. The changes are to be implemented from term 1 next year, and the government has made it clear it will not easily budge from its policy.
We're certainly prepared to listen to teachers, to students, to everyone, and we'll even take some notice, but we will not change from the essential thrust, and we're certainly not going to allow the schools to be continually driven by vested interest groups such as the Teachers Federation.
When a new government gets into power, there's always some changes take place. Everybody expects that. Some are good and some are bad. In this case, I think they're just a little bit too hasty. I'm certainly not an educator and qualified to judge the full effects of this, but as a layman, it looks quite horrific to me, and we should take some more positive action on it.
Skottowe could not have known what sights would greet him when he arrived in the colonies. A part-time naturalist, he was sent to Newcastle to oversee the 138 convicts sent here in 1813. It was during that time he chose to record his observations of the flora and fauna unfolding before him. What Skottowe wrote about and drew probably aren't exactly new to today's society, but what makes his manuscripts so different is the refreshing fashion in which he recorded them.
The manuscript is written in the first person, so he talks very much as he feels about the wildlife. He talks about the edible qualities of some of the wildlife. He speaks, for instance, of the kangaroo being very tasty. So it's very much a sort of personal look at wildlife in Newcastle in that period.
Few creatures escape Skottowe's notice, be they butterflies, birds, even fish, but surprise clearly clouded his perception during early encounters with such creatures as kangaroos and emus, and the result was these rather less than accurate artworks.
Today, Mr Hayden was saying nothing about the appointment. At dawn, he dodged the media at Sydney Airport when he returned from his final overseas trip as Foreign Minister. He remained tight-lipped a few hours later when a television crew turned up at his Canberra home. Mr Hawke made a formal recommendation to the Queen last week. She'll announce it in a statement from Buckingham Palace tomorrow, and Mr Hayden will announce his retirement from politics simultaneously. The ministry reshuffle made necessary by Mr Hayden's resignation won't happen until Parliament takes a break at the end of the first fortnight of the budget session, starting on Monday. But the Prime Minister has already decided on most of the changes. Senator Gareth Evans replacing Mr Hayden in Foreign Affairs, Ralph Willis into Senator Evans' old portfolio of Transport and Communications, Peter Morris into the key Industrial Relations post, and Victorian right-wing strongman Robert Ray will also be promoted to Cabinet, probably in the Immigration portfolio. The present Immigration Minister, Clyde Holding, will be dropped from Cabinet and he may go out of the ministry altogether.
In the morning light, half awake and half asleep, have you ever laid there thinking, was it all in a dream? But you reach out and she's there, every moment, everywhere. Have you ever been in love?
Leo Sayer unashamedly admits he writes from his experiences, and life hasn't been smooth sailing for the singer who's rebuilding his life after a divorce and complete management reshuffle.
It was difficult because we'd been together a long, long time, and their ideas were fully entrenched, you know, that I was definitely going to be going, you know, this kind of Julio Iglesias route, which I didn't want to go. And so it was after a bit of a fight, you know, I sacked them, I suppose, really, basically, and because it just was getting nowhere. And started again. It's been very difficult, but it's been very rewarding. It's been a little bit like, you know, sort of going back to the drawing board. But you need challenges in life, so that's what I'm doing. I'm challenging myself again.
Today, Leo Sayer has taken the challenge so far, he's no longer just a performer. He's also his own manager and producer. He's taken to mixing with just a small circle of good friends and is enjoying romance with an Italian lady. At 40, Leo Sayer is starting again, performing a mixture of old and new songs. His hits date back to The Show Must Go On in 1974 and include others such as Moonlighting, Long Tall Glasses and You Make Me Feel Like Dancing. Soon he'll release a new album titled Leave My World Alone. What do you think Leo Sayer will be doing in, say, 10, 20 years' time?
I'd be quite happy to be doing the same sort of thing, but I think being 50 at that time, because I'm 40 now, if it's 10 years' time, it would have to be slightly different. And I hope that maybe I'm able to turn my hand, I'm producing myself now, which again is something that I didn't originally intend to do, but it seems to be there's nobody else to carry the can, so I'm the one who's got to do it. But I hope to be still writing and doing a lot of projects, and I hope that I can be maybe producing some other artists.
After his performance in Newcastle tonight, Leo is heading off to perform on the Gold Coast. While visiting from the UK, he's enjoying the chance to see Australia's music industry firsthand.
Yeah, it's a very healthy music scene. Unfortunately, it does seem to be a little bit in the hands of the kind of, you know, the mechanised end of the industry, i.e. videos and things like that, you know. So in other words, it's getting a little bit predictable, but I think there's still a lot of fire in the Australian bands. And you only have to look at the ones that are really big in the world today. You know, if we can call Crowded House Australian, which we more or less can, John Farnham, Mental as Anything maybe, and definitely In Excess. And you only have to look at the power and style of those bands and the fact that they are extremely, Midnight Oil as well, extremely good at what they do. At least there's a good sort of maxim for the young bands here to kind of live up to. In other words, if they go and see those bands perform, they're going to see good singing, good songs, good performances, you know, really good playing.
He says music fills most of his spare time, but Leo Sayer also enjoys motorsports and hopes to make it to Adelaide for the Grand Prix. There is much to learn about the pint-sized performer, who once described himself as a schizoid Gemini. But who is Leo Sayer?
Who is Leo Sayer? God knows. God knows. I wish I knew. A little fellow who never gives me a day off. I don't think there's any... I used to think of myself, well, my real name is Gerard Sayer, and I used to have a double life where I would sometimes be Gerard, but these days it seems to be all Leo. But no, I enjoy it, actually. I mean, there's not many people who get a chance to sort of reach these heights, and you might as well kind of enjoy it while you can, and that's life.
These are the first pictures of the breast cancer screening bus due to arrive in Newcastle later this week. The bus is the first of its kind in Australia and is fully equipped to take mammograms, that is, x-rays of a woman's breast. Previously, this could only be done in a hospital. The bus, built by Special Purpose Vehicles in Sydney, offers the hunter a unique service. By taking breast screening into the community, thousands of women could be saved the pain of breast removal through early detection. Our region currently has 200 new cases of breast cancer a year, and almost half of these will die.
We're talking about a particularly important group in the community. They are wives, mothers, friends, family members, part of the workforce, and control of breast cancer screening, which is the commonest cancer of all in women, and certainly the one that causes most deaths of any cause in the 40 to 54-year-old group. It is something that affects the entire community, which is why it's particularly appropriate that it's the Bicentenary Project from NBN, where it's not just women, they're important enough as it is, but it's everyone in the community gets affected by breast cancer.
Construction of the van has been a major engineering feat in itself. Not only has the body been custom designed, but every avenue has been explored into making the van user-friendly and non-clinical, from interior decorating to customised change rooms.
We therefore started with a blank piece of paper, started with the tyre contact patch and built up from there. It's a totally unique vehicle and it's in its function in Australia at the moment, and it's a total design.
The bus has the most modern mammography equipment in the world and will visit different centres in the region over a 2-year period. Initially, women in the high-risk age group of 50 to 60 will be screened, but this will expand to include women over the age of 40 and those at special risk. In the past, breast examinations have been uncomfortable and embarrassing to say the least, and this has deterred many women from seeking the necessary life-saving test.
The X-ray produces the best picture if there is the smallest amount of tissue between the X-ray tube and the plate. So for many women, it's a good idea to compress the breast tissue somewhat to reduce that amount of tissue. But we have state-of-the-art equipment which is the best in the world, the best in Australia, and that compression is controlled by a soft pneumatic device, a foot pedal, so that it can be incremented very slowly. There's nothing sudden, and it ought not be very painful for just about everyone.
By the time a lump is large enough to be felt, it can already be 1 to 2 centimetres. Many can't be cured. Many will lose a breast. With mammography, the cancer can be diagnosed at the size of a pinhead or smaller, and early treatment provided. However, state-of-the-art technology is expensive. The unit has cost $300,000, of which NBN Television has contributed 2/3 and the state government helping with the rest. Professor Forbes is continuing his campaign for further funding, and State Health Minister Peter Collins says the program has his full support.
Breast cancer is a problem that we have to recognise in the community, that we need to provide services for. And what better way than to provide a mobile service that will get out into the community, not just depend on people coming to a hospital for treatment or for assessment. Because obviously if you can have this service on the road, getting out into far-flung centres such as you have in the Hunter region, it really shows that we're intent on extending services to the region and not just to Newcastle.
At present, in the Hunter alone, 90,000 women are in need of breast cancer screenings. This bus will effectively handle 10,000 tests a year. But is it enough?
No, it certainly won't be. It's a fantastic start. It's a very small and important beginning to something that will expand over a period of years. I can already see quite clearly that we can make a very important inroad into the screening project with this first bus. As soon as we get our bus on the road and we get the bugs out of the system and have it working properly, we'll be looking at our second and probably a third bus looking ahead over a period of 2, 3, 4, 5 years, something like that.
I think this is going to be a magnificent asset for the people of the Hunter region. It really shows what you can do when modern medical technology and the generosity of a community like Newcastle get together. And I know that NBN has played a major role in raising funds for this fantastic medical asset. And I think that it's very exciting. The Hunter is at the very forefront of this technology, not just in New South Wales, but for Australia.